Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder. Today we're diving into a document from ABVC BioPharma, and boy, it's a wild ride. Imagine a biotech company trying to juggle clinical trials, secure funding, and keep its stock from sinking all at once. This filing feels like that juggling act. Before we start, if you appreciate getting straight insights from corporate documents, make sure you're subscribed. We also have a Discord community linked in the description below, so come join the fun. Scroll is filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission on May 16, 2025. Scroll. Under document is a post-effective amendment to their registration statement, essentially updating some information so investors have the latest figures. Scroll Misteam for all, the VC BioPharma sees itself as a biopharmaceutical pioneer, aiming to develop innovative botanical drugs. In regular words, they want to make new medicines from plants focusing on diseases of the brain and cancers. Scroll supply chain disruption projects ABV 1504, ABV 1505, and ABV 1601. Scroll, like most companies, ABVC admits that health epidemics like COVID-19 could hurt their business, making it hard to get supplies or complete clinical trials. Scroll, the company has never ill-generated revenue and will continue to be unprofitable. Scroll, here is the truth. They haven't made any money yet, and they don't expect to for a while. They rely on funding, and if that dries up, things could get tough. Scroll advancing to cap the pivotal trial phase of ABV 177. Their plan is to push forward with key drugs and devices in their pipeline. Once they get through phase 2 trials, they'll look for a big partner to handle the later stages. This is crucial because ABVC themselves don't really have the resources for big phase 3 trials or for actually selling drugs themselves. Also, a major issue for ABVC is competition. They're up against giants with way more resources and experience. If they can't compete, their business will suffer. Scroll clinical trials and the development of our products, including but not limited to Scroll Clayfer. There is a warning to potential investors. There's a lot that can go wrong in clinical trials. They are expensive and time consuming. It's going to take a lot of effort to go from phase I to FDA approval, and even if the FDA doesn't approve their drugs, it might make them do even more studies. Scroll depend primarily upon a sole supplier of our key extract. Scroll. Here's a risk that many people don't think about. ABVC depends on one supplier in Japan for a key ingredient in some of their drugs. What if that supplier can't deliver? That could really throw a wrench in things. Scroll has been below $1 euro for a period. It's of 30 consecutive business days. Scroll. Speaking of potential problems, they mentioned receiving a warning from Nasdaq. Their stock price has been below $1 for too long, and they risk getting kicked off the exchange if they don't get it up. This is not a good look for the company, even though they have until July to fix it. It gets worse. Nasdaq said that they did not meet the minimum stockholders' equity requirement. If the Nasdaq kicks them off, it'll be bad news. Fewer investors will want to buy the stock, and it'll be harder to raise money. Scroll, the staff has determined that based on the company's quarterly report on Form 10Q for the quarter ended March 31, 2025. But wait, just a few days later, Nasdaq changed its tune. They said that based on their latest quarterly report, ABVC is now in compliance with the listing rule. Scroll are offering Scroll 10 now. Let's talk about what this report is about. It is registering shares for existing shareholders to sell. It is not raising money for the company. Also, this prospectus contains forward-looking statements, which means that ABVC is trying to guess what their future is going to look like, but there's always a lot of uncertainty, so don't rely too much on these predictions. Scroll Minister Accession and analysis of financial quadrants and results of Option Scroll. Now let's talk about money. They have not made a lot of money so far. Revenue has come from out-licensing, which is basically renting out their drug patents, and from BioKey, which offers some manufacturing services. To grow, they will continue needing money for R&D. The problem is that it might be hard to get. There's no guarantee they'll get the financing they need. Scroll Vatagak is clinical development quartz brew. They are making headway in the clinical trials for Vitagas to treat retinal detachment. Scroll enrollment progress in the phase 2 part 2 clinical study of ABV 1505. Scroll safe. They have 69 patients enrolled in their phase 2 ADHD drug. The problem with this one and a lot of other trials is the enrollment. These enrollment problems can set them back and cost them a lot. To get more funds, they rely on an investment fund called Lind. They have a complex arrangement where they issued notes and warrants, ways of borrowing money. These notes are used in tricky ways to issue equity. One interesting thing they did was acquire a 20% stake in some property in China and now plan to jointly develop senior and medical care. The land is still being reviewed for approval by the Chinese government. They also entered a term sheet with another Chinese company, but this is only a preliminary agreement and subject to change. To further help the financials, the company is working with IBTL to develop CNS products for MDD and ADHD, both mental diseases. They've granted IBTL a license and are relying on that entity to work things out. A large risk is the fact that their research has a global presence. If ABVC can't enforce their patents outside the US, or if someone breaks this agreement with them, then things can be hard for them. Scroll, if you intend to actively monitor our stockholders' equity, Turand will consider options available to us to achieve compliance with Rule 5000 serious risks regarding compliance with NASDAQ. Their stock equity is very low. If the company is not able to maintain these requirements, then NASDAQ may delist the company. Now let's take a very quick look at the compensation, which has a lot of non-cash compensations. To do that, we will jump to the summary table. Okay, looking at the summary here, Songshan Jiang received $353,746 in 2023. The stock awards given to T.S. Jiang amount to over 3/4 of his salary in 2023. The stock awards given to T.S. Jiang amount to over 3/4 of his salary in 2024. So he is highly confident in his own stock. These numbers appear decent for executives. The stock awards given to executives amount to decent chunk of their respective wages. So they are highly incentivized to make the stock perform well. With all this being said, it's really down to the drug and medical device in the pipeline that will decide ABVC's future. So it's now time for my take on the company. ABVC is still in a tough spot. Their financials don't look amazing. They've had to restate results, and the NASDAQ listing is always a risk. However, I like the strategy of partnering with larger firms for later stage trials and sales. It makes sense given their size. Their drug pipeline has to start delivering results, and it is important that ABVC is working with different entities, as it should protect them from having too much exposure to one partnership. Alright, that's our breakdown of ABVC's latest filing. What's your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.